Incarcerated. I'm your co-host, Matt Fisher.
I'm also your co-host, Ryan Whedon.
Two guys that dated for a hot minute, a hot decade ago. Now we review hot movies.
On this hot day in August.
It is a little warm today.
Yeah. The dog days of summer.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we have a dog here with us today.
We do.
Special friend of the pod, Lucy.
Say hi, Lucy.
Hello! We're here. We're queer. And
get used to it?
I can't imagine somebody's 40 episodes in and is still uncomfortable with the fact that we're gay.
Remember that episode of The Simpsons where they had bears?
We're here. We're queer. We don't want any more bears.
We're here. We're queer. We don't want any more bears.
Hey, Homer, that's a pretty catchy chant. Where'd you learn it?
Oh, I heard it at the mustache parade they have every year.
Oh, The Simpsons, ahead of their time.
Well, I always think about Homer's phobia.
Hot stuff coming through.
Oh, yeah.
Because, really, that's kind of making fun of gay people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really making fun of Homer and his irrational phobia.
Yeah. I remember seeing that episode, because that came out in like 96, 97, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So I was a confused teenager at the time, feeling very mixed emotions about an episode like that.
Yeah. But now, especially in the gay community, it's a cherished
Oh,
episode.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's hilarious now. John Waters is the guest voice on it. So.
That lends a lot of credibility to it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's weird to... You watch it, and they're really leaning into a lot of gay stereotypes.
Totally.
But they also kind of turn, like, the masculinity thing on its head. It's like, yeah, they're all, like, steel workers, which is supposed to be, like, very manly.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all a bunch of dandies.
Yeah.
But they're also still all steel workers.
We work hard. We play hard.
What's new? What's anything awesome happened this week to you?
I had a very busy week, and doing a double feature it was hard to squeeze in.
Oh, tell me about it.
I will. But I did manage to find a spare 77 minutes to watch a little film called Deathbed, The Bed That Eats.
Oh, shit!
We are going to rent cameras, buy film stock, hire a crew. We are shooting this masterpiece.
I'd heard about this movie for years, but never actually watched it. And so I was like, you know what? This is going to be the week.
Uh-huh.
This is going to be when we watch it, and or when I watch it.
Tight 77 minutes.
And it's part like Roger Corman monster movie, part sort of Italian giallo film.
Okay.
Where it's like atmospheric and moody with like macabre deaths and stuff like that. I couldn't tell you the plot. I don't know why people kept laying on that bed. They knew full well that like it was going to eat you. But
Isn't it like 400 years old too? Didn't it get cursed like...
Yeah, maybe.
Man, they tell you to change a mattress like every 10 years.
Because it was a perplexing film. It wasn't without merit though. Like it had some sort of beautiful atmospheric stuff. Because like when you got sucked into the bed,
Mm-hmm.
the camera was always like it shot like an underwater thing where like whatever it was eating would dissolve. So like someone's hand got stuck in there, and you would see like acid eating away at the flesh of the hands and stuff like that. So yeah, the movie wasn't without merit, and I'm always sort of fascinated by movies where inanimate objects are killers.
Yeah.
And I feel like Deathbed really sets the bar for that genre of film.
Oh, wow, okay.
I also was interested in watching the movie because when I was 7, I wrote a short, scary story called Deathbed.
Oh, yeah.
Also about a bed that eats people.
Do you by any chance have that laying around somewhere?
I'm going to have to dig it up. I don't know where it went, but I know that I have a story.
That would be a great Easter egg to drop on people.
What about you? Did you see anything?
I did. I watched the Russian movie Leviathan from a couple years ago.
Sure.
Can't stop thinking about it.
Okay.
It was really good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it has like a what is that, like a whale skeleton or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I couldn't tell if it was
cool.
real or not, but it doesn't matter. It plays into the story really well. And it's like, I realized it may be the first movie I've ever seen in Russian. Which is, I'm
See
ashamed
Russian
to say.
Ark?
No.
You never seen a Tarkovsky film?
No. Got a blind spot, I'm realizing.
No Eisenstein movies?
No, I don't think so.
That's Battleship.
Oh, okay.
By which I mean the 2012 Battleship with...
Rihanna?
Yeah, that's the one. Well, you're fresh off Valerian. I figure maybe you're just going through the Rihanna catalog. Filmography, not music.
I have seen Battleship. I'm sort of ashamed to admit.
Who's the guy in that? The hot guy? Mr. Vanilla?
Is it a Hemsworth? I don't remember.
All attractive white men, you default to Hemsworth.
They all look the same to me.
All attractive white men.
Yeah.
No. He was the guy who played like John Carter in the John Carter movies.
Oh, Taylor Kitsch?
Yeah, isn't that the guy in Battleship?
I really don't remember. I'm sorry.
He could be confused as a Hemsworth. I could see that.
Yeah. It's also got the guy with the funny face from Friday Night Lights is in it. One of the murderers that they never talk about again on that show for some reason.
Friday Night Lights?
Yeah. It was
I've
like
never seen the show.
It was like a murder that happened in season 2, and then they just kind of never talk about it again. Yeah, it's sort of a weak point in that show.
Clear mind, my eye, or clear hearts, or whatever the saying is. Full minds?
Full hearts, brave minds. No, full hearts, eyes full of tears.
This is Paul Blart Mall Cop all over again.
Yeah, what is it? Clear eyes, full hearts?
Clear eyes.
We'll never know.
You just need Visine? And you can be on the high school football team?
Yeah, Ben Stein plays a very important role in that show.
Does he really?
No.
Oh.
He did Visine ads, so...
Oh, I must have missed those.
Not missing much.
Yeah, I remember watching Win Ben Stein's Money a lot in junior high and high school. He must have been kind of smart. Too bad he's like a weird Christian conservative.
Yeah.
Jumpstarted Jimmy Kimmel's career.
Oh, yeah?
He was the co-host on that show.
That's right.
Then he went on to do the Man Show.
Oh, my God. The, ode to male fragility. I wonder how Jimmy Kimmel feels about that show now. Because he seems to have evolved from that.
Yeah.
At least in the past 17 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah, he seems a little bit more sensitive to things now.
Yeah. I think once you get a talk show, you don't really get interviewed on other talk shows, which is a shame because, I have a lot of questions for him now.
Yeah, what other talk show hosts are you? You want Meredith Vieira making the rounds? What, you want Jay Leno up there?
Ew, no, I want him to just go away.
What was wrong? Wait, what's so bad about Jay Leno? I'm not going to bat for him or anything. I just want to know why,
what I hate?
Discussed.
Well, for one thing, he asked everybody to do his comic work for him, having people send in funny newspaper stories or typos for him. How hard is it to be hey, everyone, look at this funny thing that someone sent in?
That's a valid point.
I don't know. I just never found him funny. It was always let's watch David Letterman. That guy's actually funny.
Yeah, I like David Letterman, mostly because he could kind of make fun of himself.
Yeah. I
remember during a heat wave, they were like, oh yeah, it's been really hot here in New York, and they had footage of on the street, and someone takes off their glasses, and a guy in a doctor's uniform holds up a magnifying glass, and a laser from the sun goes through the magnifying glass into the eyes, and it's it pans a sign that says LASIK for cheap or something. And it got a tepid laugh. And Dave Letterman was like, that's comedy with a capital K right there, folks.
Also, gave Larry Bud Melman a career. So we're all grateful for that.
He kept Paul Schaefer in the public light.
Yeah.
He co-wrote It's Raining Men.
It's raining men.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He wrote the music, I should say, not the lyrics. Not gay, by the way.
Yeah, which, Wow.
Big shocker there. That could have fooled me.
Could not have called that one.
Trying to do Almodóvarama, but it doesn't quite flow off the tongue.
Almodóvar again and again. No, I don't know. Almodóvar and on. Shit. Yeah, there's not really anything there, is there?
It sounds close. Like, there's so many syllables in his last name that you'd think you'd be able to make a pun out of it. But no, it's just not there.
No. Anyway, we did 2 movies by him today.
Depending on which newscast you watch, it's Pedro Almodóvar, or Pedro Almodóvar.
Almodóvar.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
We did...
Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
And Bad Education.
Sort of 2, not extremes, but definitely different ends of the spectrum.
Yep.
He's got kookier comedies, and he's got darker dramas, but, you know, these probably epitomize his screwball comedy and his noirish sensibilities the best.
Yeah. Both, and it's interesting, one is super popular, and one is not as beloved as I would think it would be.
Which one's which?
Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown is a huge success. Everyone loves it. Everyone knows it as an Almodóvar film, I feel like. And I think Bad Education kind of gets glossed over a lot. People jump from Talk to Her to Voltaire a lot.
Yeah, Voltaire, I think, was his big break in at least the English-speaking communities.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I certainly didn't know who he was before that. Oh. I remember seeing the trailer for Voltaire, and I mean, like, I have no idea what this movie's about. It's just like one scene they're like burying a body, and the next scene they're clapping.
Before we jump into the movies, we should maybe mention a few things about the man himself.
Sure.
Been making movies since the early 80s. And
have you ever seen any of his really early works?
The earliest one I've ever seen was What Have I Done to Deserve This, which is like 84, like third or fourth movie, somewhere in there. It's bizarre.
Sure.
It's real weird. There's a telekinetic child.
Oh, okay.
Like elements of like kind of like Italian horror and really bizarre movie. Really strange. But totally Almodovarian.
Sure.
Has all the elements that you'd have. Has Carmen Maura in it, who is apparently the Katharine Hepburn of Spain. She's won like 3 or 4 Goya Awards, which is their equivalent of the Academy Award.
Okay.
But yeah, I went through the list. I've seen 9 out of the 20 movies he's made. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. The earliest of his that I've seen was Dark Habits.
Okay.
Which was about a showgirl on the run from the mob who takes refuge in a monastery that's inhabited by heroin-shooting lesbian nuns. Which you'd think would be amazing, but was actually kind of dull. I got real bored real quick with that one.
He writes all his scripts, too, pretty much. I think there's only like 1 or 2 that are... Well, one's an adapted movie. I can't remember. I want to say it's Live Flesh.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
That one, I think, is adapted from a story, but I think the rest are all original stories that he's written. I also want to mention that he is maybe the most decorated of the directors that we've done so far, in that he has 2 honorary doctorates from Harvard and Oxford.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, he's defining the language of cinema.
I would like to say, especially while rewatching Bad Education today, I feel like he is just as stylish as other stylish directors like a Brian De Palma. But I don't feel like he gets talked about in the same circles of film fans who covet that type of style. Like, Quentin Tarantino gushes over Brian De Palma and his stylishness. Same with Noah Baumbach. Feels that De Palma is super stylish and, just worships it. But I feel that Almodóvar is just as stylish.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I don't hear, like, praise from, like, that community about his level of style either.
Right. Also, just, I'm not sure who his production designer is, who he's worked with all the time, but, like, the production design on every movie is lush, colorful, of the time.
Sure.
And eye candy. Like, really great to look at, you know?
Yeah. While watching Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, I was thinking, I was like, what would this movie be like if you took out any scene that had red in it? Like, it's not even that he uses different shades of red. Like, if you just narrowed it down to, you know, fire engine red.
Like transition red for Tears and Laughter?
Yeah. Just what scenes could you even use?
Yeah.
You'd be cut down to like 3 or 4 scenes because the main character in that, like, her fingernails are painted red. So really, like, any scene with her in it, you couldn't use.
Yeah, gazpacho is red.
Yeah, gazpacho is red. And watching it, like, because I noticed it pretty quickly. So I'm like, okay, there's a scene in the beginning where you're seeing, like, some of the voiceover stuff.
Sure.
And it's the dapper older man that, you know, everyone's in love with.
For some reason.
Yeah. It's like, I don't quite get it, but okay.
Yvonne.
They're showing... Well, he's an actor, I guess, because he's actually in, like, a commercial.
Right. And she is, too. Pepa is our main character. Is also an actress.
She does. Yeah, she also does voiceover work. Yeah, Almodóvar likes that stuff, like behind the scenes, real movie making type stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a black and white commercial, so I'm like, okay, this doesn't have any red in it.
Yeah.
So you can show this scene, and then like really, there's at least a hint of bright red until the very, like, nearing the very end when you have the I don't remember the character's name, but the older woman wearing pink, the crazy one with the gun.
Yeah, I think it's Luisa. I didn't write her name down though.
When she takes the motorcyclist hostage and they're driving through the city, I'm like, there's a couple shots where there's no red, especially when they do like the Wicked Witch of the West scene with like her hair blowing in the wind. I was like, oh, there's no red here. She's got fucking Tammy Faye Baker eyes.
That is the best. Oh man. So, I mean, we may as well jump around a little bit, but the chase scene in this movie in the last like half an hour, plus crazy lady moving through the airport where it's just like her head moving along the like moving walkway stuff. It's just like, I love it. It's so beautiful and stylistic and hilarious.
When you hear the title Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, you think that they're almost there and that they don't quite go over. I feel like that it's like a jump rope for some of these women. Because our main character kind of has a breakdown right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, she's debating on whether or not to commit suicide. Like, she pops all the Valiums or barbiturates. And then at the last moment decides not to take them all at once. But then she sets her bed on fire.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to kill myself, but I am going to set my bed on fire. And I'm like, I feel like this part, because she watches it burn for a little while.
Yeah, it gets pretty big.
Yeah, it's not like she lights something on fire and throws it on the bed. Like, the mattress is on fire. And I'm watching, I'm like, I'm going to put this in nervous breakdown category. This is like Britney 2007.
Just no one's there to witness it and take pictures.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it is funny. It's funny because Pippa, throughout the whole movie, is pulling it together. Like, it's just a constant, all right, I've had a setback, I'm going to put on a new outfit, and we're going to keep going forward. Because she doesn't sleep for 48 hours.
Right.
Which,
despite taking a barbiturate.
Yeah. Poor thing. God.
Which I think would just add to the nervous breakdown.
Oh, totally, yeah. But it's fun because, you know, she's an actress, so we see her pulling it together constantly. And I think there's two things that she does a lot that I was noticing. It was either like, let's have some coffee, or like, let's have something to drink.
Candela, sírveles un poco de café.
Or like, she goes and changes an outfit. Sometimes both. It's just like, these are the two things that are keeping me together right now. Or like, you know, I don't know exactly what that says about her. It's like, I think he's kind of making a comment on her character there.
So last week we were talking about, or I mentioned during Miller's Crossing, how the Coens really like distinctive voices. Mm-hmm. And I feel that Almodóvar really likes distinctive faces.
Oh my god. Are you talking about Antonio Banderas' fiancée?
Yes.
Carlos.
Sí, mi amor.
Esto no me gusta.
She would be difficult to not pick out in, like, a lineup, right? Like,
it would be if the lineup was all Picasso paintings.
It's her in a bunch of Picasso paintings.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, I don't know.
I don't want to, like, disparage a woman's looks, but she does have a very unique face.
That's exactly the words I used. Has a very unique face, right there.
Like, her eyes seem very high, and she has very
One
pronounced
is a little
nose,
lazy.
and, like, she's got it, and, like, the bangs just seem to accentuate how high the eyes are.
Yeah, she has a very small forehead.
Yeah.
She has a very unique face.
Yeah. And so, I don't want to badmouth it, but it's not a face you forget easily.
Yeah, that's one that, like, on Law & Order, if they walk into, say, a bar or, a department store and it was like, was somebody looking like this shopping here? You'd be like, oh, yeah,
yep.
I remember that face.
Yep.
It's a real difficult one to not remember.
And I like her sort of character arc, because she comes in, she's sort of the bitch.
Yeah.
She's bossing around, she's snooty, and but then she has some of the gazpacho with all the barbiturates in it, and she passes out quickly, and she has her little sexy dream time while the rest of the movie's happening.
¿Qué le pasará?
No, que se está divirtiendo.
Es que no la había visto nunca así.
Pues mejor la despertamos porque se lo está pasando muy bien. ¿No ves la cara que tiene? Se lo está pasando pipa.
But when she comes out of it, she's actually, like, in a good mood.
She's like, I slept like a log. And then she's totally nice.
Yeah.
At the end there.
I guess she just needed a little D.
I like that everybody who drinks the gazpacho in this movie is like, this is so good. Like, Peppa makes good gazpacho.
Well, when she was talking about making it, I was like, I kind of want some.
Tomate, pepino, pimiento, cebolla, una puntita de ajo, aceite, sal, vinagre, pan duro y agua.
I make a mean gazpacho. I'm not
really?
gonna brag, but
Okay.
I was thinking today.
Stale bread and everything?
I don't do the stale bread. That was the one ingredient that I thought, like, what? Really? I mean, I guess I could see it if you're just blending it all up. It just kind of thickens it up.
Well, yeah. I think, it's like French toast. Like, I think people just needed a reason to, like, use up stale bread back when food wasn't super plentiful.
Yeah. Have you ever made gazpacho?
No, I've never made it.
Oh, it's so easy.
I mean, I like the taste of it. I've had it before, but...
Mm-hmm. This has been Gazpacho Cast.
For more on gazpacho, tune in to Ryan's other podcast.
Gazpacho for all.
¿Qué tiene este gazpacho?
Tomate, pepino, pimiento, cebolla, vinagre, pan duro, aceite, sal, puntita de ajo y agua.
It's tomato soup served ice cold.
To jump back to the beginning, during the breakdown, we'll say, she watches the mattress burn for a while. Like, she's sort of enjoying the blaze there for a little bit. And I was trying to think if there was a symbolism to lighting the mattress on fire, because she was upset about the, her philandering boyfriend person, Ivan. Because he was married, and she knew that he was married.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Closer, except it wasn't as infuriating to me, where it's like, for a bunch of cheaters, these people get awfully sensitive when they're cheated on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're the other woman here. Like, I don't really think you should be getting this upset about, like, him, I guess. Well, he wasn't seeing his wife. He was seeing another woman.
Right.
Like, yet another woman.
But also, she's pregnant. So it's like,
I
think she's got that going for her, where that's sort of a motivating factor in her nervous breakdown of, like, I need to tell you this big news. Throughout the whole movie, she's trying to get in contact with him just to she could tell him that, even though they're breaking up. And
she kind of goes back and forth because it seems like there's a point where she's avoiding him. Like, in the middle, she's like, well, fuck that guy. I'm not going to...
Yeah.
If he doesn't care, then I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. And then she kind of goes back. She's like, I'm pregnant.
She, like, rips the phone out, and then it's like, can you fix the phone, Antonio Banderas? Because he might call me.
I like that running gag because she keeps throwing stuff at the window, but it's just at that one pane.
Yeah.
So it's like the phone breaks that window pane, but then she throws other stuff, and it goes through the already broken pane.
The record and the answering machine.
Yeah.
Both go through that.
I was like, oh, she's got good aim. Either that or she's just really used to throwing things in that direction.
I forgot about her throwing the record out the window and it hitting the lawyer woman.
It's like in the episode of The Simpsons when Homer gets kicked out of Moe's.
I'm taking your caricature down from Mount Lushmore, and I'm pulling your favorite song out of the jukebox.
It's raining, man!
Hey, co-written by Paul Schaefer. Kind of along those lines, we tried to do a double feature campathon on episode 10 that failed miserably. May we never speak of it again. But somebody who's super good at camp is Almodóvar. Like, this movie has campy elements like that, and it works.
So one of the arguments, and this is something that you hear a lot in defense of showgirls, is that can you create camp by design? A lot of people feel that in order to make camp, you have to like be trying to make something that isn't camp, and it
becomes it.
It becomes
by
it.
Virtue.
Did you see I'm So Excited?
I did. I thought about that a lot actually today.
And like that movie is probably his campiest, and that's totally by design.
He can do it, and he does it really well.
Yeah, he just seems to have an understanding of the sensibilities around camp. During the voiceover work, I think I identified the movie that they were doing the voiceover for.
Okay.
Because it had Joan Crawford in it.
Right.
And I think it was a movie called Autumn Leaves.
Oh, okay.
Which is a movie, it's sort of role reversal about a young man played by Cliff Robertson who falls for Joan Crawford, who's an older woman. Ew. And I kind of felt like this was the reverse of that, because you have the young woman who was in love with Yvonne, who's an older Latin man.
I like that you brought up the voiceover stuff, because there's a scene, we're talking about style as a director, there's the shot of when Peppa's doing her work on it, and it's that overhead shot following the line of the film strip.
Okay.
It's like brightly lit, we're looking down on it as it slowly moves forward.
Toma, bebe.
No tengo sed.
Con esto conseguirás dormir.
Ya lo intenté. Y no me sirvió de nada.
¿A cuántos hombres has tenido que olvidar?
A tantos como mujeres recuerdas tú.
No te vayas.
No me he movido.
Dime algo agradable.
Sí. ¿Qué quieres que te diga?
It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's really great. And then I loved when she's pacing later, and we're just following her shoes.
Oh, yeah. Right. I have a note about that.
That's so great.
Yeah, just her pacing in high heels and like pivoting back and forth.
Yeah. It's a cool shot, and it tells us about her. Like, she's struggling with something.
Yeah, it gives off a feeling of nervousness, you know, or even like you could say like a ticking time bomb sort of scenario.
Yeah. With
the clack of the heels.
Right, and it's specifically feminine issue because she's in heels. You know? So it's kind of, I don't know, that worked really well for me. And I loved the scene, there's a part where she's coming back to check her answering machine, and she looks down at the cassette, and we're filming up through the cassette as it's spinning.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's like, and it's on there for like 5 seconds. It's not even a huge cut, but... One
of the scenes I really liked was after she had put out her mattress, and there was a scene of her packing the suitcase up. It was all Yvonne's stuff that she, you know, she was going to give back to him or throw away or whatever her mood was guiding her to do.
With that.
But it starts in the suitcase and trying to pack it up, and it backs up like more and more like slowly. But then it reveals you can see the mattress and her bedroom in the background, and it's like just this smoke-filled room.
Por fin me libro de estos suecazos de mierda. Y de esta flor que vaya a olvidaría. Y un pato. ¿A quién se le ocurre regalar un pato? Solo a ti.
Well, yeah, that was a nice little reveal, because like our eyes are fixated on the suitcase and we don't see like the smoke and the mattress till like we're almost all the way like panned out.
That's interesting that you're talking about this, because there's another scene, the gazpacho scene, when they're all in the living room drinking gazpacho
With the cops and everything?
Yeah, and there's you see everyone starting to fall asleep and getting drugged and like laying down, and you just see like Peppa and crazy mom, Luisa, I'm guessing, holding full glasses of gazpacho. And like, it's just a pull out, and you see that they're the only two who are awake, and they're the only two holding full glasses.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Entonces, ¿qué hacen aquí que no están en el aeropuerto?
En el aeropuerto hay más policías que pasajeros, no se preocupe por eso. No sé qué me pasa. Pero como no confiese, me lo llevo.
Jefe, a este gazpacho le han echado algo.
¿Qué tiene este gazpacho?
It's a good visual cue that they know what's going on, sort of, or that, you know...
They're not going to pass out. Like them, at least.
Or that they know what the score is. You know, she's not drinking it. Neither of them are drinking it, so, you know, one of them knows that there's barbiturates in the gazpacho, and the other one just might have, you know, her attention elsewhere and isn't interested in the gazpacho.
Yeah.
The gazpacho is almost like Chekhov's gun a little bit.
Yeah.
It's, you know, we're introduced to the idea that, like, if you drink it, you know, you'll pass out, and suddenly it's a weapon in the movie.
Can we please stop saying Chekhov's gun and start saying Almodóvar's gazpacho? Kind of rolls off the tongue.
Man, if someone doesn't start a band with that name...
We'll get it to catch on. Hashtag Almodóvar's gazpacho.
So, if in town we had a cab driver, like the one in this movie, how often would you take a cab?
Mambo Taxi is awesome.
God, he's got magazines for rent.
Tissues.
Yeah, because she's crying at one point.
She just grabs one. He takes requests for items that you need, because in like the third time she runs into him, he has eye drops.
Yeah.
He's prepared for that.
Yeah.
¡Ay, el colirio!
Oh, you got eye drops.
Yeah.
How sweet.
I mean, not only was his cab like leopard print, I mean, the interior, the outside looked normal, but the inside was like leopard print.
Yeah.
His hair was bleached blonde, and it was just, he seemed all right.
Yeah, I like Mambo Cab. Pedro Almodóvar has been questioned as like, what do you think one of the secrets to success of your films?
Mm-hmm.
And he's quoted as saying that, like, I think a lot of it is owed to the fact that they're entertaining. And watching this movie specifically, that is partially what makes this movie great, is that, like, you can have this madcap plot that gets twisty and strange and sometimes difficult to follow a little bit.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because it's so entertaining.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah. And in the penthouse or the loft or the suite or whatever her apartment is referred to as, there's an artifice to it. Like the background and the skyline looks like it's almost like a play.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, you know, a lot of voiceover work, like you can tell when something's dubbed.
Oh, yeah.
There's an artifice to that. And I was wondering if those two things were sort of connected at all. But I was also kind of thinking that I think, especially the way that Almodóvar seems to love his set designs. Like there's so much red, and you know, there's not really a rhyme or reason to what's red. It's just like as much red as possible, really.
Yeah, or just colors.
I just noticed like there's a scene where like someone has like one of those old like credit card logs when you had to like take out a machine, like chunk it.
Right. Yeah.
And the carbon copies. And someone was like looking through one of those, and the print on that was red.
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh man!" Someone was in props and saw that and was like, "This is what we're using for this shot."
The tickets to Stockholm, I think, is what that was.
Oh, was it? Okay, okay.
Yeah, because you used to get like paper tickets in the mail with like a carbon copy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I barely remember that as a kid.
But yeah, I was just thinking, I think he just really likes creation and like creating, like, and he's chosen movies because that lets him be sort of creative on all fronts.
Yeah.
But I mean, in almost all his movies, like it revolves around people who are like in show business, like creative people in one way or another, actors, actresses, you know, stuff like that, people working in a creative field.
I think that owes a lot to the time period when he started making stuff, because I was researching today. He came into his own, or he was a big part of a renaissance that was happening after dictator Franco died.
Okay.
And so he kind of helped usher in this like era of creation and freedom and new things that were along those lines that were suppressed for a long period of time.
Okay.
And so it's just like this blossoming and growth in creative fields that came out in that time.
Okay.
So, yeah, I totally can see him just like latching onto that and being like, let's keep representing this.
Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, I think, really kind of marks the beginning of his mature period, we'll say. Even his other earlier movies, even if they're not bad or even if they are entertaining, this one kind of, I feel, is him like finally finding his voice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at this point, he's still chiseling at stone,
Mm-hmm.
whereas, say, in Bad Education, he's molding with clay.
Sure.
But this is, like, I feel, when he found his voice.
Agreed. And I forgot... So I saw this a long time ago in the theater. I want to say it was the Harvard Exit when they were doing the, like, Almodóvar-thon of their own.
Get back to that.
But I don't remember this movie looking as good as it did. I remember it feeling really 80s,
Mm-hmm.
and watching it for this podcast feeling like this feels a little more timeless than I gave it credit for the first time I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's of its time,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't necessarily read 80s in any other way than, like, say, fashion or
the technology, like, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, no one's going to throw their answering machine out of the window nowadays. Or...
Yeah. But other than that, it really is, like, the themes of it don't read that way.
No.
The way characters act or their motivations don't feel dated. I don't know.
He does sort of operate, especially in this movie, on just sort of timeless themes. Like, you know, is there ever going to be a time in, you know, humanity when you don't get upset when you're betrayed?
Yeah. Is there ever a time where you're going to be upset that the hookup you just had turns out to be a terrorist?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
A Shiite terrorist.
Well, I mean, the terrorists can change as time goes on, but, you know, that's a real boner killer to find out that that dude you've been sleeping with is a terrorist.
Yeah.
Speaking of production design, those coffee percolator earrings that she was wearing, wow. That's not the choice I would make if I was trying to lay low, personally.
You know, and it really is, it's women on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Antonio Banderas' character doesn't seem that perturbed by anything.
Oh, he's so tertiary. I guess he gives Pippa some motivation in that, like, she's pregnant with his brother.
Oh, yeah,
so,
that's true.
Like, that gives her motivation to...
Yeah, he's the son of Yvonne.
Yvonne, yeah, and Louisa. So, that gives Pippa motivation to be like, oh, well, maybe I should create this relationship.
I love the way that Almodóvar... Louisa, is that the mother?
Let's go with that. I don't know if it is or not.
But, like, she comes in with her Jackie O pink.
Oh, I know what you're
and her
say.
Tammy Faye Baker eyes. And, like, she just reads crazy. She doesn't even have to do anything.
I thought you were going to say that, like, Candela starts crying because she thinks that it's the cops coming after her. And they're like, what's wrong? And she's like, it's the dress. It's just so awful.
¿Qué pasa?
Nada. Comentábamos el modelo de la señora.
Horroroso, horroroso.
Bueno, Candela, solo es un traje, ¿eh?
Horroroso.
Bueno, pero ella es libre de ponerse el traje que quiera.
Candela, por favor, deja de comportarte como una niña frente a los señores policías.
I know it's awful. Pull yourself together.
I mean, it's just straight up like Mary Kay, like home delivery.
Yeah, and earlier when she's wearing that weird like leopard print lampshade on her head and the leopard print jacket.
So, when she pulls out the gun, I was like, you know what? She would carry a gun. She seems like that kind of crazy.
And it's in like a super 80s gift bag that she's carrying around. And there's 2 guns in there.
Yeah, she's double fisting it for a while.
She's just got 2 guns in this gift bag that was designed by, I don't know, a more corporate Keith Haring, basically.
But yeah, and then, yeah, so she's going to the airport. She's going to shoot Yvonne. She kidnaps or holds at gunpoint that motorcycle driver, and, like, they're going to the airport. And just the music that's playing, and then there's, like, just the close-up of, like, her head, like, and her hair, like, in the wind. And it's just Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of anything else that he was doing. Like, the music isn't specifically that, but, like, the way it's, like, the profile shot with her hair in the wind, and, like, you know, not specifically Wizard of Oz music, but it's playing music that could have been in Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. And there's something about just, like, I think maybe he's making a comment on, like, when society views, you know, passionate women, we label them as witches. Indeed, yeah. Or crazy. It's, like, all in your head, maybe, and so it's just an image of her head. Yeah, it's so good. I remember the first time seeing this, just losing my mind at that point, just thinking, like, this is so good, you know?
It really, like, the screwball levels get, like, really amped up in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little screwball to begin with, but it really goes off the charts near the end.
Yeah. One of the most fun Almodóvar movies.
Yeah.
Just, like, front to back. It's a lot of fun. It's super entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and stylish.
Mm-hmm.
And women forward. Do you want to shift gears here and start talking about Catholic priests who abuse children?
Yes, but then after that, can we talk about Bad Education?
Sure, I feel like that'd be that sounds great.
Actually, before we get started, I'm going to grab the other bottle so that I don't have to grab it.
Oh, yeah, I should actually go to the bathroom. We're taking a break, folks. Did we mention that he's gay yet?
I don't think we have. If you didn't know beforehand, you'd know by watching his movies.
Indeed. He's a homosexual through and through.
And
a proud one.
Yeah. And in his movies, there's all sorts of gender fluidity going through. Like, there's always people, you know, non-binary characters in, you know, the majority of his movies.
Yeah. Not struggling with their issues either. Everyone's just fine with either being gay or being trans or whatever.
Yeah. It seems, I mean,
they're all liberated in that way. Still needing to get through the means of it. But yeah, at least, like, no personal struggle.
Yeah.
Sort of like in Tipping the Velvet, where it's like, there's no questioning of that. There's no internal struggle. Nobody has to come out in an Almodóvar movie.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until reading about him and his movies today, thinking like, oh yeah, that is true. Maybe that is why I've liked his movies so much. Is like, there's a gay character and they're gay.
Yeah.
Boom. Who cares?
So before we hop into our next film, this is the movie that sort of popped my Almodóvar cherry. I had heard of him as a director before. One of my coworkers was of Mexican descent.
Okay.
And she was a big fan of his movies, and she told me about him. And she said, you know, she was a couple years younger than me too, and I was only 20 at this time.
Okay.
And she had specifically said that Bad Education was one of her favorites, and specifically because of Gael Garcia Bernal and how attractive he was. So I remembered his name, but I hadn't seen any of Almodóvar's movies. By this time, I'd already seen Y Tu Mama Tambien.
Okay.
And I'd seen Motorcycle Diaries.
Okay.
So I'd seen Gael Garcia Bernal in other movies. Hadn't really developed any lustful feelings for him yet.
Oh, okay.
But you mentioned earlier that there was an Almodóvar marathon at like Landmark Cinemas.
Oh, yeah.
So that was going on, you know, one weekend on the hill here, and I decided to go see a movie. Like, I was living in First Hill at the time.
Okay.
And so I walked over to the Harvard Exit Theater, and Bad Education was playing. I was like, oh, well, this is the one that she liked the best. Well, check it out. You know, when you're 20, you can't drink yet. You have all this free time.
Yeah.
So I used to just see, like, I'd walk around to theaters and see what was playing, and if it's something struck my fancy, I'd just go in without really knowing anything about it. So I was like, Bad Education starts in 20 minutes.
What a movie to walk into.
Yeah, so I go in, and I don't know anything about it other than Gael Garcia Bernal's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of I was 20. It's sort of a big deal.
Totally. This is a mind-blowing movie in a lot of ways, especially for gay men.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't know that he was gay, that Almodóvar was gay, or that he made movies with gay characters in them.
Mm-hmm.
This also kind of shows like a darker side of what like repression and abuse that gay people deal with can produce.
Yeah.
And I was watching this morning. There's not really a protagonist in this movie. There's no good guy. We have Enrique, the director.
Yeah.
But even he exploits Aniel, like, for sexual gain.
Right.
Aniel is obviously being deceptive. You can't say Ignacio's a good guy.
No.
Because he's definitely into, junkie blackmailer. Priest, certainly not. There's just no real protagonist, or no hero, I guess. Not even like in an anti-hero sense.
Right. Everybody's kind of morally free in this movie.
Sure.
No one's really bound by what is good or bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Even the, religious people, because they commit murder and, child abuse, so they don't really seem bound by that.
I mean, that was definitely one thing that I was thinking about with this, is that the priest uses God to inspire fear in the children,
right?
But he himself does not feel that fear,
right? He believes God is on his side no matter what.
So there's sort of different levels of storytelling here. There's what's happening in the now.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a story written by Ignacio that's part autobiographical, part fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so as Enrique's reading the story, we're in the fiction world. And then
we're seeing the fiction
world. And then in that fiction world, there's a confrontation by two characters that goes back into a real flashback, essentially.
Right.
The autobiographical part of the story. So, yeah, we have reality, fiction, and inside that fiction story is a flashback to reality.
Right. But it could also be seen as fiction, because it could, we don't know.
It's through someone's lens.
Yeah, in that flashback, we don't know if we're seeing the movie version or if we're actually seeing him remembering that version.
Right.
So it's really metafiction ambiguousness going on there.
But it's played that the flashback inside the fiction is supposedly based on real events.
Sure. Yeah.
So even if it's not strictly autobiographical, it's supposed to be at least in that ballpark.
Right.
So there's different levels of reality and storytelling going on here, which is tricky to pull off. Almodóvar does it by shifting the aspect ratio.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, the further down you go, the more narrow the aspect ratio is.
I didn't notice that. Oh,
and then when you get back to reality, it gets wider.
Huh, okay.
Yeah. But I can still pinpoint exactly when my crush on Gael Garcia Bernal started.
Okay.
Would you care to take a guess which scene in here?
When he starts to take his underwear off and his pubes pop out?
No, not that one.
Oh. Okay, go ahead.
It's closer to the end when he's doing push-ups.
Oh. That would have been my second
jogging shorts. He's just sort of shaking his booty, dancing while doing push-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I saw that in theaters, I was like, yep.
If I ever questioned being gay, I can't anymore. I didn't realize this when I picked E2 Mama Tambien, but that movie and this one both have him swimming underwater in a pool.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he was worried about getting typecast as looks good underwater in a pool guy.
I don't know if anyone's ever worried about that. So there's one thing that I kind of noticed with the opening credits of these two movies. In Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, it was sort of like magazine ads.
Yeah, cool collages.
Yeah.
With that really great dramatic song about I'm so sad. It's really great.
But it's sort of like flipping through a fashion magazine.
Sure.
Because there's just shots of women in brassieres and like
Lipstick.
sunglasses, stuff like that. And this one, it looks like pages being ripped out of a magazine.
Yeah.
And I have to think this was intentional. With Bad Education, with like the vertical lines and the music reminded me so much of Bernard Herrmann scores from Hitchcock films.
Yeah.
And like with the vertical lines, it reminded me of the Saul Bass opening credit sequence in Psycho, with like the vertical lines spelling out things and stuff like that. And I had to think that was intentional. Like this was very specifically like an homage to the opening of Psycho, which also deals with, essentially a trans person committing violence or doing nefarious deeds.
I didn't see that. I saw it as a reference to like the layers of posters on the movie house that they go and visit.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like as you peel back layers. Like the movie is in layers, you eventually get to the truth or like to where you're getting to. So that's kind of what I read it as.
Okay.
But that's a good interpretation there too. Because he's definitely, like I said, he's very informed by cinema, and he's admitted that like that's where he got his education.
Yeah.
So.
And there's just a couple key moments where like I'll watch it and I feel like this is a very Hitchcockian moment. And then the score is also very classically Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah. Specifically the Psycho one.
Yeah. It upsets me that a lot of modern movies kind of take the score for granted, that it's more wallpaper, that it shouldn't be noticed. I start to understand why now people want the score to go unnoticed, because the score adds so much flavor to a movie, like when done right.
Yeah. And we've talked about going all the way back to episode 2, like an opening credit sequence that really gets you prepared for the movie. I think both of these movies are super good at that. And they're both like traditional credit sequences in that it's like it says Sony Pictures Classic or whatever releases it, and then it starts with these like music and credit sequences. It's great. It really sets the mood. It's almost like an overture to get you ready to go.
It's just this wonderful opening credit sequence. It's one of those things that a lot of other directors kind of take for granted or do it by the numbers, but he really uses it as, a part of the film. That, the visual aesthetic of the opening credits is just as interesting as other parts of the movie.
Yeah. And I don't know, I felt like they were of a piece, actually, these two opening credit sequences. And I can't remember if he always does them like this, but they felt like they could have been done by the same person.
Yeah.
Like the same sort of collage feel.
I didn't have time to do too much research, but I definitely felt that Almodóvar must use the same crew going forward, sort of like Wes Anderson, because it's like as they age, things like sets and costumes and props seem to get tighter. Like it seems more in tune with his sensibility, and I feel like that comes from working with the same cast and crew over a long period of time.
Definitely cast, and I think crew too. I didn't research it too much either, but I think he collaborates with a lot of the same people. He started a production company with his brother in like the late 80s. And then this is what makes Bad Education so great, is that it's like, it's not only meta in that it's a director and we're watching the film that this director is making. You can blow it up one more level and put Pedro Almodóvar in there as the director, because it's like he's making this movie based on some personal accounts. Like he said, it took him like 10 years to write the script because it was a very personal movie for him.
Oh, really? Oh.
So it's like you can take it out one more time and see him as this person making this movie, and because he owns a production company, he's looking for stories to do. He's a director in the early 80s. Like it works on that level too.
Makes me think that if that he sexually exploits his actors.
Antonio, do you have anything to say?
Because, I would say that Enrique is probably the least sinful of our main players. But even he, knowing full well that Angel is not what he says he is,
takes advantage of him.
Yeah, and,
But he admits it for a reason. He's like, I want to see how far you would go as an actor.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was the audition, basically. It's like, if you let me fuck you in the ass, I'll give you this part.
It says, Amiel's like, let me audition, and it cuts to him being fucked.
Yeah.
Entonces me haces una prueba.
Casting couch time.
And then he says, like, the audition process went on for months.
Yeah, he's like, I penetrated him several times.
Yeah.
And he let me do it because, like,
only physically.
Yeah. In the end, Angel turns out to be married to a woman. Like it says in the sort of epilogue, like he ends up marrying somebody.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, you have to wonder how much of that was he sexually into and how much of it was him actually just acting to get the part.
Another thing about Almodóvar movies is it's not just like gender fluidity, but there is sort of like a spectrum of sexuality too.
Sure.
Because the priest also marries a woman and then has a kid as well.
Yeah.
And Aniel goes on and marries a woman, even though, you know, we're introduced to him, you know, he's playing the part of a gay man. But then he doesn't have to play the part of a gay man for the priest, as we find out later.
Yeah.
But it's still like his little boy toy, either for financial gain or for just the presence or whatever, you know. He was, you know, hetero-flexible at the very least. But, you know, it sort of seems that a lot of these people play straight just because, you know, it's expected or it leads to an easier lifestyle. But it's not really a big thing. Almodóvar doesn't say like, oh, you know, this person who molested young boys goes and marries a woman. It's not like a big deal. It's not like, and suddenly he did this. It was like, oh yeah, that just sort of plays out to like the natural flow of things.
It's refreshing to not really have a morality to his movies. There's no definitive right and wrong, like, say, religion dictates, you know? Like, these people, they're all kind of free of that. They can do whatever they want. And I think there's even that line of it where it's like, once he lost his faith, he was like, I was free, I could do anything.
Yeah, without fear, he was capable of anything.
Pienso que acabo de perder la fe en este momento. Ya no tener fe, ya no creo en Dios ni en el infierno. Si no creo en el infierno, ya no tengo miedo. Y sin miedo, soy capaz de cualquier cosa.
I like characters that can do that. And, like, we're free to kind of judge them however we want. The film never judges them. The film never, like, dictates to the audience, like, this is bad, this is good. It's just sort of, like, presents these characters acting, and then you're free to judge them however you want to, if at all.
I was going to say that I guess that does allow, like, the audience to project their own sense of morality and values, and we're not confining them to the film sense of morality.
Right, or societies even. I feel like this film kind of transcends what society expects of people, in a lot of ways.
So we talked about the use of red in Women on the Verge, and there's no shortage of red here. I don't want to say that. But he does seem to use it more conservatively here, because there are actual stretches of the film that don't use red.
Yeah. But still is a very colorful film.
Hugely colorful. But it's red, a lot of like sort of golden brown tones.
Greens and purples playing against that.
Yeah, a lot, and the lighting. I remember...
God, the lighting. I don't know if it was the HD version I watched today or what, but the lighting in this movie is so good. Somehow they got everybody's eyes to sparkle. Like, I don't know what... I think it was the version I watched, because I was just, like, caught up in how good the shadow/light interplay was.
Okay.
It's just really amazing.
In the origin story, because with Women on the Verge, I was like, there's like 3 scenes in this whole movie that don't have fire engine red in them.
Yeah.
And here, the red is a little bit more nuanced. Like, it's not always just the hard, traditional red that we're thinking of.
Okay.
Sometimes it's different types of red throughout. But in the origin story, when we go back to them as children, there's a scene of them at night, and they get caught in the bathroom by the father.
Right.
And it's just blue and black for that whole sequence. And I felt like that was on purpose, that, you know, this one scene is devoid of any other colors other than just like blue, purplish, and black. In that scene, the young boy Ignacio, you know, the father is threatening to expel Enrique, and he says, "I'll do whatever you ask, as long as you don't expel Enrique, which is a terrible position to put a child in.
Yeah, these are like 10-year-olds.
And then he ends up expelling Enrique anyway.
Yeah.
And he starts talking about how like the father's hypocrisy, like right then and there, like he was going to get his like revenge one day.
Yeah.
And I just remember like he's talking about like how infuriating that hypocrisy was, and it cuts to the children working out like in the schoolyard, while like a father's like sitting down with a cane and being like 1, 2, you know, while they're doing push-ups. And I was like, this fat tub of lard sitting on his ass, like telling all these kids. I was like, I don't know, that looked like another like display of hypocrisy. Like
totally,
this father's like literally not even like walking around. Like I understand, like no, you're not as athletic as 10-year-old boys, but the fact that you're sitting down just like hitting a cane, meaning like down, up, down. I'm like, okay, different type of hypocrisy, but it's illustrating the point.
Abajo, arriba, abajo. Bien, buenos de
And it's beautifully shot. Like, I just have to say, I remarked on that scene as well, just how cool it looks.
Yeah.
Because it's like a really high up scene, and you see them all moving in unison, and then they all stand up, and then it's like I don't know, it's just really cool.
And that's the scene where they explained that Enrique was being expelled, and they're doing like sort of like
trunk twists with their heads on their
hands on their heads while they're twisting their torsos. And Enrique is being led away, presumably with his parents. And Ignacio stops, and like the whole crowd is doing these twists,
right?
But he's stationary, looking in one direction. So it kind of just gives that contrast that his mind is elsewhere.
And just while we're on this scene, that really drove home the point to me that these were kids. Because they're holding their arms up and there's no armpit hair. These are children.
Yeah.
I
was also thinking, if you were the child actor in this, you probably wouldn't be allowed to see this movie.
Yeah.
Like, they probably had to wait like 8 years before they were allowed to watch this.
Yeah.
There's a couple of really stylish things that go on in this origin story. When Ignacio's confronted in the latrines there, the way that scene ends before it cuts to like them in the playground, the father like walks across camera and his back like obscures the whole view, so it goes all black, and then it's a white dot that like comes out of that,
right?
And then also in the origin story we have when the kid is first accosted by the father, and he runs but falls and his head starts bleeding, and then it splits him in two. And I mean, it talks about how he felt split in two, but really, I feel the point of what that was trying to do was like it's now a before and after thing for him. Like there was a before the trauma and an after the trauma, and his life is now in these two parts.
And what's cool about that expulsion scene is that there's a shot of young Ignacio, and then it fades to present day Gal Garcia Bernal, because we think that's who was playing him.
Right.
And then we also get a nice cool fade from Enrique into the director, who it actually was in that time. And it ties it all together, because at that point you're sort of like floating between like, who are these characters exactly? Like, is he just reading a script? Is this really us? And like that moment kind of crystallizes that, this is, Enrique remembers it this way.
Yeah.
So it's like this script is from Ignacio, even though he feels like it could not be Ignacio.
Well, because there's that little that middle fiction part where Aniel's character is the drag performer, which, by the way, is the greatest lip sync sequence
Zahara.
you will ever see.
So good. Zahara is a great lip syncer.
Yeah.
Siempre que te pregunto que cuándo, cómo y dónde, tú siempre me respondes. Quizás.
I don't know how much practice or how much, like, I don't know how much work it would have had to take, but that is a perfect lip sync.
So good. Also, the dress, that nudie dress that he's wearing.
Yeah.
Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, he designed that. So. When it is revealed that when we're watching this back story that it is actually like a fiction.
Yeah.
He ties it all together with that gesture, that hand gesture that Zahara does, where she puts her hand up by her forehead kind of thing.
Okay.
And then later, when Angel is studying the drag queens, we see him do that gesture.
Oh.
So, like, it ties it all together that, like, that is a fiction.
It's sort of fiction. Like, we get the idea that it's still kind of actually based on the real Ignacio.
Right, we don't really know exactly that we're watching a movie quite yet.
Yeah.
But it cues you into the fact that, like, oh, what I saw earlier was him studying to do that part.
Yeah. I mean, the movie's not very long. It's like 100 minutes.
Yeah.
But we get different stories, different versions of stories, and then, like, but they're seen through different character lenses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that, the fiction part is only partially fiction. It's still based on Ignacio. It's just
seen through the director's eyes, basically.
Yeah. And same with the origin story. It's like, you know, we don't know precisely how much of that origin story is real, but, like, that's the way that the main characters sort of remember it.
Yeah, so we're seeing the story written by Ignacio, so that's filtered through Ignacio, directed by Enrique, so that's filtered through Enrique, directed by Almodóvar.
Yeah.
So you've got, like, these several filters that it's coming through.
But when I watch it now, the following the narrative seems crystal clear to me. Like,
me too.
I never felt like I was lost or I didn't know who these characters were.
Yeah.
Even though there's these different planes of reality, Almodóvar juggles it masterfully.
I've seen this movie several times now, and it's never felt like a confusing narrative.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. He somehow manages to take this crazy, convoluted metafiction story, and it automatically makes sense.
Yes.
As a viewer.
I remember in the Zahara story, like the fiction element, I was like, you know, most drag performers sort of look like Far Side cartoons.
Like Beehive haircut?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, Zahara actually kind of looks hot.
Totally.
And I was thinking, I was like, except like he doesn't have a really lithe physique. Like he's a little thick. And then when it gets back to the reality storyline, and he's like, "Oh, I want to play Zahara," and Enrique's like, "Oh, well, you're too well built for that." And I was like, "Exactly."
Yeah, he is. The shots of him like getting ready to get into the pool. I was just like, he is a stocky little thing.
Yeah,
he is
really
really
brick
small.
of a man.
Yeah.
But I guess during the rape scene where he is penetrated by the guy who passed out, the
unibrow,
which I don't think we talk about that enough. He did rape Enrique right there. The rumor is that he actually, like, Gael Garcia Bernal actually, like, sat on a dildo. For that
Really?
scene.
See, I just imagined that Gael Garcia Bernal had practiced on a dildo in a mirror or something, and then when he came into work that day was like, I know what I'm going to do.
Oh, okay.
But, sure. Let's pretend that is the real deal.
Really, we've only talked about, like, the first half of this movie. Like, all this, like, shifting reality stuff is just, like, the beginning of it, essentially.
Right. Well, it all gets kind of thrown into question when Enrique says, like, I'd love to do your script, Ignacio, in quotations. Let's go celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Which in, like, quotations mean, like, let's go maybe get drunk and have
Yeah.
sex because you look great. And we used to jerk each other off in the movie theater. And then, like, Enrique starts to get clued into the fact that maybe Ignacio is not who he says he is.
Yeah.
So he goes...
He doesn't remember a song.
Right, a very important song to them, and he doesn't get naked in front of them. And, like,
Yeah.
and he's like, you just don't quite seem like the Ignacio that I thought you were. And while I don't doubt that this story was written by Ignacio, I just don't know if you are him.
Yeah.
So he goes to go do some research and finds out that Angel is Ignacio's brother. Juan the whole time.
Yeah.
And is an actor who just really wants to get this role. He thinks it's a real meaty role.
It is a meaty role.
It's totally meaty.
All sorts of man parts. Just
slabs
those leading man parts.
Oh, I can just taste those meaty leading man parts in my mouth.
And so once he realizes that, he sort of becomes an actor in that he's like, okay, Angel, you're welcome to play this role, but you also have to be my fuck buddy.
Yeah.
Let's see if you're really willing to play this part. And he does. He's just like on board. And then that's when we, as the audience, realize that this flashback, or the envisioning of this script that we've been watching the whole time, is actually the movie he's been directing.
Yes.
And it comes to a head with that final scene in the priest's office where they shoot it, Zahara dies, quote unquote, in the movie, and then they and cut. And you see the artifice pull away.
Yeah.
All the walls start to pull away, but the real emotions of the weight of everything that Juan has done are there.
Yeah, because he's still crying well after the scene has ended.
For me, watching it this time, that was an amazing moment. It's always been kind of cool to realize, the reveal of all of it, but, as the, artifice of the story pulls away, the realness of the emotions crystallizes for him. Mm-hmm. Juan's emotions in that moment are real.
Oh, yeah.
He's very much upset about, what it took to get to this point for him, and is crying.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
As that artifice gets torn away. It's a real moving moment for me.
Yeah, but it's also, it's conflicting for me because Angel's not a noble character.
No, not
so
really.
It's not necessarily that we're sympathizing with him here, but when you see a character crying like that, you can't help but sympathize with them a little bit, but, how much do you sympathize with monsters?
But also at that point, you don't know that he's the one who murdered Angel, which we're getting to.
Right.
But you just know that, he's an imposter.
He's vertigoing her.
Yeah.
Or, to put it in Almodóvar terms, he's la piel que habito, the skin I live in her.
Exactly. It's cool. It just makes the whole meta story finally pay off, I feel like.
So, at this scene, Enrique goes to his office. He's, working on whatever directors work on in their office. And the real-life father comes in. Or rather, he's already in the office when Enrique gets there. And he's like, what are you doing in here? Who are you? And he goes, I'm the villain in your movie.
Deje eso. ¿Quién es usted?
Soy el malo de tu película.
I love that reveal. Because it's okay, we know who he is. And it's he already acknowledges that, he knows what's going on in that line.
And it works in the context of I'm the villain in your movie, meaning the movie we're watching in the movie, and also the movie that we, the audience, are watching.
Yeah.
Because he's the bad father who did all the abuse.
But the way that he sort of... he's still portrayed as, being super evil.
Yeah.
But he's portrayed differently than the way that we see him in, the origin story.
Totally.
Because... And I think it's because, he has zero scruples. And so then we get his side, his story.
Right.
He's being blackmailed by Ignacio. So there's just this complex morality here because Ignacio, who was molested as a child and, the trauma has basically led him to have a less than glamorous lifestyle, openly admits that he's a junkie, heroin addict.
Transgender.
Has... the tits, as he keeps calling them, They do refer to Ignacio at this point as he still.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
But he doesn't change his name either, though.
No. So I'm going to refer to Ignacio even at this point as a he, because that's the way that all the other characters and kept his name this way.
Sure.
So he had the tits, but he was going to go for full gender reassignment surgery, but needed to get cleaned up first. And was blackmailing the father that molested him for $1 million pesos, or not pesos.
Pesados?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know the currency.
Right. Which is funny. It's such a turn because up until the point that you actually see Father Manolo's presentation of her, Ignacio has been presented as this angel child.
Yeah.
Like with this heavenly voice. Singing to him.
Definitely, yeah.
And like this, he does. He looks like a little angel with his big ears and just like the sweetest little thing. But then like, you get this cut and he's got like, kind of a fucked up face.
Yeah.
And just like, kind of a jerk too. Like not a great person.
When I saw this in theaters for the first time, the reveal of the real Ignacio with his tits hanging out, and he looked
fucked up teeth from heroin abuse,
and he just looked dirty.
Yeah.
Like he looked like he'd be sticky to touch.
Yeah.
And it was just such a shock because we had built up this idea of what Ignacio is while you're watching it. And then the reveal, the real one, is in stark contrast to what we've built up.
Hola, señor Berenguer. Soy Ignacio. Pase, por favor.
You want to believe that he would grow up to look like Gael Garcia Bernal.
Yeah.
You really want to believe that.
Well, you kind of want to think that the heroes of your story overcome their trauma to do good things, but they really don't. Like, the trauma fucks them up.
Right.
And they turn into terrible human beings.
Which is a shame because, A, Ignacio wrote that great script that Enrique's like, I want to make a movie about this. And B, when we get views of Ignacio's apartment, there's like glimpses of a super creative person in there. They're like, there's all this artwork that's like sort of squares painted that I'm just assuming is Ignacio's work. Because it's also like on the walls, it's painted that way, but you get a bunch of framed paintings of it too. So you get this impression that not only is he a good writer, but he's also like a creative artist in some ways too. So it's like, it's a real shame to find out that he's also an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, very openly blackmailing him and like really unapologetically a junkie.
Yeah.
And like steals his grandmother's pension, like as they mentioned like later on, like and is unapologetic about it. He comes into the apartment, he's like, I have the sweats, like I need heroin now.
Tú, dame pasta, tengo un mono que te cagas.
Yeah.
And then Juan calls the mother because she just had a heart attack. And the grandmother's like, he stole my pension, I just got it.
Me ha robado la paga y acababa de cobrarla.
Not a likable character.
Yeah, as an audience, we want to sympathize with someone who's like survived trauma, but they're also like actively doing immoral things, like literally stealing from their own grandmother.
Yeah, but how much of this can you believe? Because this is Father Manolo's account that we're watching.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I take it for face value, but I can't help but question it after all that we've seen up until that point.
There's a level of ambiguity there because we are seeing all these stories unfold, but they're all definitely told from someone's perspective.
Yeah.
It's being interpreted through someone else's lens, which, they're going to paint it the way that they saw it.
And that includes Almodóvar's lens.
Yeah. The movie also does one thing that I love in a plot, and it's one of those tricks that I could never do if I were a screenwriter, which is having a dead character really be the forward, like, pushing device in the narrative. Like, in Ignacio, as we find out throughout the movie, was dead before, like, the story started.
Yeah.
But he's the driving force for the narrative through the whole movie.
Yeah.
Which is always something that, like, I find interesting when you have, like, characters that either don't appear or that everyone's talking about and, isn't on screen, but is the driving force of the story.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like like a stupid twist, like, and he was dead the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
it's an emotional scene when Ignacio dies. Even though it's happened in the past.
Yeah.
Long before this movie starts.
Yeah, Ignacio had been dead for like 4 years at this point.
Yeah.
When like the movie starts, but it's the actions of this dead person that is putting everything into motion.
Yeah.
Which that's one of those like writing storyline things that I think is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, Orson Welles always said that if you ever get a chance to like pick a part in a movie or a play, you want to be the one that everyone talks about for the first act and doesn't show up till the second act.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like Ignacio is technically not... He only exists in flashbacks in this movie, but is the driving force of the film.
Yeah. Never exists as a real character. Like, Ignacio is always presented as somebody's side of the story.
Yeah.
You know, we don't actually ever see Ignacio. We just see, like, the myth of...
Yeah, we have him writing about himself, or we potentially
viewed through Enrique's lens.
Yeah.
Viewed through Father Manolo's lens.
Yeah.
And then viewed through Juan's lens, in a way, because he's performing
the part, yeah.
So, but we never actually see who Ignacio is.
Yeah.
Earlier, I feel like this movie gets passed over a lot, and I think it's because it is such a queer movie.
Oh, definitely.
Like, it is... I think it's like... You know how Harvey Fierstein was saying in The Celluloid Closet?
When people say to me, your work is not really gay work, it's universal. And I say, up yours, it's gay. And that you can take it and translate it for your own life is very nice. But... at last, I don't have to do the translating, you do.
Yeah.
I feel like this is another movie in that vein where it's like, this is a movie for queers. Like,
yeah.
This is a movie for gay people and queers in general, that if you're straight, you can come to it in however you want, but it's not for you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like this is a movie that a lot of straight people like or get. Because everyone I've watched it with who is straight kind of is like, that was interesting. But it's like, this movie speaks to me on a very deep level.
Oh, and this is the first Almodóvar film that I saw, but it like kickstarted a passion for his movies.
Yeah.
Because it's like he got it.
Yeah.
Like he lives a queer life and lifestyle.
Yeah. It reads really gay to me, really, like in an unapologetic way.
Yeah.
Like, this is a movie dealing with themes that straight people have to do the translating for, and I love that. I appreciate that, and I didn't realize it really until watching it for this podcast. About, like, I said earlier, how he makes movies where these aren't gay characters struggling inwardly against society. You know, they're not like conflicted in that way. They're fully realized gay characters. So like, that part of me has been settled. Now I'm acting in the world.
And, I've mentioned this before.
That's
but
empowering.
One of my litmus tests for how good a gay movie is if the story can be told with straight characters. And really, there's just...
no way!
Even if they were straight characters, they would be non-binary characters.
They'd have to be, yeah.
Because we have trans individuals in this. And at the very least, the characters are bisexual.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to talk about Juan and Father Manolo, like, but even then, if you're having non-binary characters, like, then is it really straight? Like, can you label it that?
Yeah.
So, I can't twist this movie to be like, you couldn't have this movie being played by straight characters, like cis. Hetero characters.
No way. And that makes me sad that it gets passed over a lot because of that. I think it just illustrates how far we still have to go in that realm. Like, people are like, yeah, gay marriage, we're equal now. But it's like, no, this is an incredible movie that gets passed over because it's gay. And that means that heterosexual people are still in charge because they're the ones who get to say that, like, oh, this isn't an important movie.
So, in preparation for this, I still go to Scarecrow all the time. And I was like, I own both Bad Education and Women on the Verge, but I own them on DVD. I was like, oh, well, let's see if any of them are on Blu-ray. Like, I'll pick it up, watch it in high def. And Women on the Verge is on Criterion Blu-ray.
Oh, wow.
Just came out like a year or so ago. Bad Education still just DVD. Like,
yeah, I'm so surprised that this one just gets passed over. It's so good.
Yeah, it really, like, just head to toe. It has strong script, strong performances, and is immaculately directed.
And it's just as good as the movies on either side of it.
Oh, yeah.
Just as good. If not the best one of those. I don't know. Like,
I
love All About My Mother, and I love Talk to Her.
Yeah, I do too.
And Voltaire, but it's like, I feel like this one is just as good.
Yeah, definitely.
Soapbox done. Anyway, I have a really important question to ask you about this movie. Enrique's haircut. Good or bad? The bangs, schlong situation.
Yeah, I'm going to go with bad. I did notice his hair a lot, and I'm like, ugh, I would have done something about that. Why did it do it for you? Turned you on?
I've wanted that haircut several times, and no hairstylist will give it to me. Because they're scared that I'm going to hate it. Or, I don't know why. Or they're ashamed to admit that they did that haircut. No one will do it for me, and I think I would look great with that haircut.
Really?
Yeah.
With your complexion?
I mean, I'm done with longer hair now anyway, so it's not even a question anymore. But there were many times where I would show a picture of that to a hairdresser, and they'd be like,
"You came in with a picture of Enrique?"
Yes!
Give me the Bad Education.
Give me the bangs and the long in the back. I want the 80s schlong from this movie.
And I don't know if you could do bangs. That's, the little wings in the back, yeah, of course, that looks good on anyone, but I don't know. I mean, I didn't think it looked good on him, though, either. My eyes are always on, GGB.
Anyway, I don't have a really great way to close this out. Other than, I really enjoyed watching these movies. Anytime I watch an Almodóvar movie, I wind up loving movies again.
He makes films sort of in the style of, Golden Age of Hollywood, but it's definitely through his own sensibilities.
They're arty, but they focus on entertainment.
Yeah, they don't skimp on things like story, they don't get up their own ass in art.
But they're arty.
They are very arty. He seems very well versed. He's not, the type of director that I feel just watches one type of movie. I feel like he watches all types and draws inspiration from a variety of sources and is able to turn it into something that, is unique to him.
Yeah.
If you like movies, you're probably going to like at least some of his movies. But if you're gay, especially, because so many of his movies deal with, gender fluidity, non-binary, and it's not for shock. It's part of the story.
Empowered versions of characters like that.
Yeah.
Not ones that are struggling to find empowerment.
They're already, in the got to be real category.
Yeah.
Do you think Bad Education could have ended with got to be real?
No tienes que darme más explicaciones. No es mía. Es de Ignacio.
Well, do we have a preview of coming attractions for next season?
Oh, yeah. We're going to be jumping into season 5.
This is a big season for us. Oh, we never thought we'd make it this far.
I know, and here we are.
This is the syndication season.
Yes!
If we did 24 episodes a season.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
This previous season, season 4, we started off with a sploosh. And this time, I want to start off with a Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, okay.
It's time to talk about Edgar Wright.
Okay.
And how much I adore him
as
a director. We'll have lots to talk about.
It's also hugely underappreciated, I feel.
Hugely underappreciated. I think it kind of defines, like, new cult classic in that it was just a movie that bombed at the box office, but then gained a lot of traction in the home video department.
I must own that movie. I mean, I watched it not too long ago.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to watch it again.
It's fine. Edgar Wright movies are absurdly easy to watch.
And reward repeated watches. Oh my god. Let's plug our junk. We've been recording for a while.
Subscribe, rate, review on iTunes. X-Rated Movies.
You can follow us on Twitter at X-Rated Movies.
Like or follow us on our Facebook page at Rated X Movies.
Also, typey us an email at x.rated.movies@gmail.com.
And we have a Patreon. Send us to PodCon.
Yeah, get us some new mics.
Yeah.
Help improve the quality of our audio.
And
continue to listen and tell your friends.
Yeah.
We love all of you.
We do. Because really only our family's listening.
We'll see you here in 2 weeks with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Bye.
Bye.